We at Dolby have a confession to make. We're obsessed. Obsessed with the way the human ear perceives sound. With the way a song can make your heart beat faster. Obsessed with how a movie can bring you to the edge of your seat. Or a television broadcast can make you pump your fist. This obsession extends beyond entertainment. We've found a partner in our obsession, a global company that believes in the power of communication to make a better world. A company that pioneered telecommunications itself. A company who cares deeply about creating a true human connection. That company is BT. Our belief is that every experience deserves quality audio. Not just movies, or TV shows, or music. As a team, we focus that passion, that obsession on an indispensable business tool, audio conferencing, a wilderness of static, crackle, and unintelligibility. It's the little things, a laugh, a shared sentence, a subtle cue that barely counts as a word. Those things make a world of difference when you are talking to someone a world away. Creating clearer, natural conversations. Real global collaboration. This experience, developed by Dolby's obsession with quality sound and BT's incredible network technology, will change the way the world communicates.
Hello, I'm Kevin Taylor, the President for BT in Asia Pacific, Middle East and Africa, and also Eastern Med. And I'd just like to welcome you all to this event today. I think we have a few showcases connected. I think we have KL, we have London, Sydney, and obviously myself here in Hong Kong. So first of all, I'd like to say we're very proud about what we're launching today, which is the world's first, if you like, Dolby audio calling across the globe. And the sound difference, you'll get demonstrations later on today, is absolutely fantastic. And as an executive, when I travel, I travel to see my customers, I travel to see the employees. But operationally, I use conferencing a huge amount of my time, and Dolby has made a massive difference in the trials I've been on just recently to the quality of the dialogue, and I'm very, very excited that we're presenting this to you today. Now, BT has a history of innovation. Probably to some, you'd be surprised about some of this. We actually were the inventor of a computer called Colossus back in 1943, which was deciphering messages during a period of time in history which was very problematic. In '87, we did our first instantaneous translation of speech by computer. In '94, the first video on demand and Europe's first interactive TV. In the later 90s or early 2000s, we invented MPLS together with AT&T, which is what most of the world's IP, business IP, is carried across the world on today. We've linked very much with the pad technology in terms of changing the pad around, or the viewing on the pad around, and as part of that, the IP today is in products that you see from people like Apple. And indeed, we put the first seamless voice across Wi-Fi between 3G and Wi-Fi, and that was in 2006. So very excited about this launch today in terms of Dolby, and I believe we're absolutely, really changing the way people are communicating across their work environment. So, as I said, I've changed, and if we go on to the next slide, we've got a fantastic lineup of speakers today. First of all, we've got Carlos Zamora. I don't know where Carlos is. Say hello, Carlos.
I'm here.
you say hello?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, there you are. That's good. I was wondering whether we had any speakers at all. So Carlos is the CEO of our BT Conference in Business. Fantastic to have him here today down in Sydney, which is great. We also have Andrew Border, who's our VP and GM for not ours, but Dolby's VP and GM for the Communications Business Group. And I know this is a very exciting time for Dolby. We've been working with Dolby over the last 24 months to develop this product that you're seeing today. He'll be explaining how our partnership's working. I'm also delighted to link across into London. I want to get the pronunciation of this. We have Anna Mizikowski from the University of Cambridge, and she'll be talking about the findings from the regional research that's been done in how to make a good quality conference call. I'm very interested in that myself, for sure. I don't know, Anna, if you're on the line, you say hello?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, great. Yeah, hi, Anna. Returning to Sydney, we have Dr. Mike Collier, who's the CTO of the Communications Business Group at Dolby, to take us through the science of conversations. We also have David Stark, who looks after our VP of Portfolio. I think David, you're down in Sydney today. And he'll talk to you about how BT's MeetMe and Dolby Voice integrates into our existing unified communication solutions. So I think that's going to be very exciting. So, look, without much further ado, I think this is a great product. I think it's going to change the way people work. It'll change our lives. It'll certainly improve the communication that we have with our customers and with our employees. And indeed, I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more. So I'll pass over to Carlos to take us through the day. So Carlos, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Good afternoon, everyone. I would also like to thank Tim, our host in Sydney. And Rachel, if you are in the room in KL, please give us a wave. Thank you so much for hosting a similar event in our offices in KL. I am Carlos Zamora. I run the BT Conference in Business globally. And I am absolutely delighted to visit you in Sydney and in KL virtually today to share a bit of information about a piece of innovation that I think you're going to find really, really interesting. And from our perspective, we feel very strongly it is going to change the way in which we communicate. Before we actually tell you all the good things that we're going to tell you, if I may, I would just like to set a little bit of context for a conversation during the next 45 minutes or so. As Kevin mentioned, most of us, if not all of us, at any point in time in our business life, engage with people across town, across the city, across the country or a region, and eventually across the world, to achieve our day-to-day business objectives. Global collaboration is a part of our life. I don't think that anyone will disagree that there is practically nothing that we do without collaborating with someone across the world. And the sheer magnitude of that collaboration is frankly amazing. Industry studies suggest that on an annual basis, we spend 150 billion minutes, 150 billion minutes in audio conferences every year. Okay, now obviously, as you can imagine, being in the conferencing business, that is absolutely fantastic news for someone like me. And I would say it is probably fantastic news as well that every single one of those 150 billion minutes produces a happy experience, an enjoyable experience, and a productive experience for our customers. You'll probably say, not so fast, right? Because we have, on occasion, experienced an opportunity where we join a conference call and we don't know who's talking. We join a conference call and we don't have the opportunity to actually engage in the conversation because somebody talks louder than we do, or because there are two speakers that are talking over one another. We engaged in conference calls where we practically miss the content of the discussion or the details and nuances of the discussion because there is noise in the background or the quality of the conversation gets lost due to problems in the connections. So that is the genesis for what we're going to be discussing with you this afternoon. Two industry leaders, BT from a conferencing perspective and Dolby from a sound perspective, felt that there is actually something that we can do to improve the way in which people spend 150 billion minutes in audio conferences yearly, and as you can imagine, that is also an expense from an investment perspective. So we set out to develop a capability, a piece of innovation, where we actually want to create an experience where people can hear what is being said in an audio conference, and just as importantly, where people can be heard when there is an audio conference taking place. What we anticipate is that in order for us to collaborate effectively and to achieve our business objectives on a daily basis, we actually have to be in a position to engage effectively with people that are supporting our business objectives. So fundamentally, main objective is to actually create an environment where you can hear and where you can be heard, okay? In addition to that, we also wanted to create an audio conferencing experience that actually makes it enjoyable to participate in those conference calls. It is not just about talking and listening, but it is also about managing the dynamics of an audio conference. How many times have we been in an environment where there is noise in the background and you would like to disconnect or mute someone who's making noise, who's disrupting everybody else on the call? And you can't do that because you don't remember the code that you're supposed to type in, whether it's *1 or *6. And if you apply the wrong code, you, instead of muting somebody, you may be disconnecting someone or calling an operator. So the concept here is quality, hugely important. Being able to speak and be heard, hugely important, but also incredibly important to be able to manage the dynamics of a call in a way that those conversations are conversations that people want to have, people want to actually join in a discussion. So that is the beginning of the journey that we are launching today. We're incredibly proud to launch in partnership with Dolby an audio conferencing capability that we feel is going to revolutionize the way in which we communicate, make it easy for people to communicate, and one additional benefit. We actually have created a piece of innovation that when we introduce it to the marketplace will not only make better collaboration a reality, but will also save our customers from an expense perspective. This solution also has a financial benefit for our users. So let me leave you with those thoughts. Just wanted to whet your appetite. Now the real fun begins. I would like to invite my good friend Andrew Water from Dolby to tell you what we've done from a collaboration between BT and Dolby perspective. Andrew?
Thanks, Carlos. Well, I'm really pleased to be here today with BT to talk about the service that we've developed with BT. Not least because a lot of the work done from a Dolby point of view on BT Network and Dolby Voice, the technology was created actually in large part in Australia, in our offices here in Sydney. Dolby employs about 100 people in our Sydney offices, and I'm really pleased to say 85 of those people are researchers and engineers who have been working on this product space for us. They contribute very broadly to Dolby's product range in audio, but a great part of the development for Dolby Voice has been done here locally in Sydney. So I'm really pleased to be able to be at this launch event and show off quite proudly the work that our local team have done. So that being said, let me talk a little bit about why Dolby has entered this market. Hopefully everyone knows who Dolby is. Yes? Great. I mean, where most people experience Dolby for the first time is in the cinema context. And show of hands here, who remembers seeing Star Wars and the Empire Strikes Back? Okay, so people at least might be in the room. When I was growing up, I grew up in a suburb actually, country New South Wales. When I saw Star Wars, that was at the local drive-in, and we didn't have a Dolby surround set up there. We had the little speaker that you put on the inside of the car window. By the time The Empire Strikes Back had come out, we'd actually, the RSL had built a cinema in the home, and it did have a Dolby surround system. And I remember actually, as a kid, sitting in the chair, and as that starship sort of flew over your head in the opening sort of scene, having that surround sound effect of that movie was something I actually genuinely remember as a child and being just blown away by. If we skip forward to more recent times, this is a poster for the movie Gravity, which hopefully some of you saw, which was done in a new Dolby sound format called Dolby Atmos, which is an immersive object-oriented sound system with up to 128 channels of discrete audio. Pleased to say that it's actually in some of the cinema chains here now in Sydney and Melbourne as well, so you can actually hear movies now in Dolby Atmos. And it's this completely immersive experience where you can imagine you're floating in space, and the soundscape is just a huge part of that. Alfonso Cuarón, the director for Gravity, actually said Dolby Atmos allowed him to actually make the movie that he'd always dreamed of. And that's how important sound is in terms of an experience. So really what Dolby is about, although you think about us in an entertainment context, we're an experience company. We're a company that wants to move the audience, that wants to involve and engage the audience. And if we think about business communications, where we're trying to communicate with each other, there's probably nothing more important than that. So our mission as a company is to take Dolby's science and technology and apply it to markets where we can really engage with an audience. And we saw a great opportunity through partnering with BT to do that in the realm of audio conferencing. I think it's probably fair to say, no disrespect to Carlos, a very substantial audio conferencing business. Audio conference is something that people do a lot of, but it's very seldom that it delights people today. You know, very seldom you get off an audio conference. Well, that's just the best experience ever. I can't promise we can do a lot about the content. Dolby tends to work with some of the sort of best script writers in the business. That part's up to you. What we can do is take away the technical barriers which stop you from communicating your message and having their message communicated back. And that's really why we see this as such an exciting opportunity. So when we think about, we're looking at lots of big numbers today as well, I've just noticed in this presentation. It's another big number. What that number represents is the number of devices that Dolby technology is licensed into. When we approach a market, we very much look at the opportunity to work with the entire ecosystem. So if that's in the movie industry, it's really started working with the content creators, people like Alfonso Cuarón, the director, and really understanding what their vision is, and then really working very closely with them so that when we deliver that experience, whether it's in the cinema, on your home audio system, or increasingly on your mobile device, that we can stay true to the intent of the director or the artistic person who was making that content. And for that reason, Dolby has become this trusted partner across that entertainment ecosystem, and consequently why we're at over 8 billion devices worldwide. We very much took the same approach with the problem of audio conferencing. And really that approach is best summed up by our founder, Ray Dolby, who really had this idea that when it comes to audio, you really want to make sure what goes into the microphone comes out the speakers, and really just want to get rid of all the nonsense in between. So when my colleague, our CTO, talks about the challenges of audio conferencing, what we really found was a number of the challenges were related to all the things that we took away from the way that we hear in everyday life. And Michael explained that. But really what we set ourselves as a goal is to really try and return audio conferencing as much as possible the way that we communicate in everyday life. So our goal is very much summed up by what Ray said in that quote. So, as I said, partnership is a really big part of what Dolby does and how we deliver our technologies to a market. So partnering with someone like BT is absolutely critical. It's not enough just to have the audio part of the solution. It has to be delivered in a way that's scalable, the customer customers can access and that can be integrated into a complete solution. One of the things that we'll be really happy to show you in the demonstrations is that the BT Meet with Dolby Voice experience is a tremendous audio experience, but it also gives you new ways of managing the call. The fact that you can see the roster from the conference phone device, that you can interact and manage the call in all the ways that Carlos was talking about, is really part of how we partner with BT to deliver an end-to-end solution. Not just about audio, it's delivering a completely different experience of how you can use audio to communicate inside your businesses. So, if we really look at what we've done, and as Carlos mentioned, that we're delivering the solution now across mobile devices, PCs, and the conference room as well. When you do the demos, there's a couple of things that I'd like you to look out for. One is wideband audio, or as some people in the industry call it, HD audio. What that's really about is providing more acoustic bandwidth on the call. So if you think about a regular telephone call, it's very narrow band. It doesn't convey a lot of the audio information that you will hear in everyday life. Wideband is great because it makes people sound like they, actually are much closer to it. It's a bit like comparing AM radio to CD. And Dolby Voice is a wideband solution, but we also believe that wideband is necessary but not sufficient when it comes to conferencing. So we've also added some other parts to the solution. One of the things that is very different about the solution is something that we call voice separation. If we think about how we hear in everyday life and everyday meetings, we have distracting noises, we have multiple people talking, and we use basically hearing in stereo and our human brains to be able to process those different signals and make sense of that audio world. As Michael explained, regular conferencing systems take all that away from you. The voice separation in Dolby Voice means that you can have much more complex conversations, it's a much more natural sounding meeting, and people can relax into a meeting and have a regular conversation. And one of the very unique aspects of Dolby Voice is this voice separation that you'll hear in the demonstrations. The last part we're focused on is noise reduction, and we have some fairly challenging demo environments for you guys to work in where you'll be subjected to jackhammers, some particularly noisy cafes around Wynyard Station, I think, and an actual recording of some George Street traffic noise, I think, Mike. It is George Street, Sydney, right? Yeah, so you'll feel as though you're in the middle of the traffic in George Street with buses and things whizzing by you. And what we're trying to simulate is what the solution actually can do. People do conference calls wherever they are, and we want to be able to support that. And a big part of the message about how Dolby Voice makes your meetings more effective. I did have a particularly ineffective meeting with Dolby Voice, and it was the first time my team had rolled out the noise reduction on the iOS mobile app. I was calling into my staff meeting. I was at Los Angeles Airport, and I was outside the terminal, and then bus noise, and incredible quality of sound. And it was a very unproductive meeting because I was actually walking around with my earbuds and my iPhone going, you can't hear that noise? Really? And I'd walk over to where the bus was and waiting to go to the Hertz and stand next to it. Yeah, Andrew, we really can't hear anything. We start the meeting. No, but you can't hear this, and I'd walk over there. And so generally, Dolby Voice makes your meetings really productive. Probably takes you through the first meeting though to really get productive because you want to play with it. It is that astounding in terms of the noise reduction capabilities, and we encourage you to try that out this afternoon. So here is where I'm going to do the big dramatic reveal. And this is something I'm happy to do. They really have to coach me very hard to do this. It's an unnatural act. But this is the Dolby Voice Conference Phone, which we are extremely proud of. The reason being is that this represents an enormous significant technical problem of how you have remote users actually being engaged in a meeting with people sitting in a physical conference room. Anyone find that being to be a challenging environment today? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of noise. Basically, one of two things happen in meetings where you have folks in the meeting room dealing with remote participants. Probably best summed up though, the idea is if the boss is in the meeting room with you, everyone has a very engaged conversation in the meeting room, lots of work is getting done, important ideas being shared, and the people on the telephone have largely no clue what is going on because all the attention is on the conversation in the room. Sound about right? Yeah. Okay. So the other thing that happens now, let's imagine the boss is the person dialing in to the conference room. Everything this scenario. We're all talking in the box, and you may as well not be in the same meeting room together because you're all now just talking to, you know, a speakerphone sat on the table, or talking up to the dangly microphone, speaking from the roof. I was actually in a meeting once where people got on the table and started talking up to the microphones, taping from the roof. It's such a common problem, and we are actually incredibly proud that we think we've done something very revolutionary. And the one thing I'd ask you to remember is it wasn't a matter of just building a better speakerphone with more microphones, more speakers, better digital signal processing. Really what we did in partnership with BT is look at this as an end-to-end problem because it had so many components that we had to go look at. So when you listen to the system today, it's not just about a better speakerphone, it's really about a better conferencing bridge and a better way for remote participants to access the meeting as well. So we're really proud of that and can't wait for you to try it in the demonstrations later today. So, with all that being said, I'm very pleased to pass to Dr. Anna. I'm not going to be as brave as Kevin and try Anna's name. I've done this presentation with her 4 times now, and every time I say her name differently. But I'm really pleased to introduce Anna because, not least, the Cambridge Engineering Design Centre, where Anna works, are world experts in understanding how technology and culture and practice have to come together for solutions to work. And BT have commissioned some really interesting work, which was done also for the Australian region specifically, to understand conferencing best practices and what role technology can play and can't play in making better meetings. I'm also pleased to say Ray Dolby was a fellow at Pembroke College and did a lot of groundbreaking work there. And so it's a lovely connection really for my company to have Anna from Cambridge to speak to us today. So Anna, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm actually proud to say that I'm also a member of Pembroke College. Thanks very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anna from the Cambridge Engineering Design Centre, and in the next few minutes, I will talk you through the research we've carried out, looking at the factors that influence what makes a good conference call. We've been working with BT to design the best, most reliable and accessible communication technologies for over 10 years. As you can see, building on some of the earliest communication devices, which I'm sure many of you will remember from your childhood. And we were very pleased to be asked by BT and Dolby to look at this area for them. You might be surprised to hear that even with all the fancy communication technologies that we now have, over 60% of people in the Eastern and Western cultures of the Asia Pacific still use audio conferencing of one sort or another for their conference calls. And while I'm sure that we will all agree that the quality of the coffee is a major factor in conference meetings, we identify 15 other factors. And unsurprisingly, the cost as well as integration with existing technologies has been a major barrier to adopting new conferencing technologies. These graphs, which you can see on your screen, and many more, can be found in the report, which is in your goodie bag on the memory stick. So please take a look in your free time. Business today is very often an international affair, with participants and collaborators spread across different parts of the world. To reflect this, we surveyed people's usage of conferencing technologies in 4 different countries: UK, US, and the Asia Pacific countries, in this case Australia and China. We also spoke to regular users of conferencing technologies from a variety of different countries for whom conference calls were a massive part of their day-to-day activities. We also use other research methods, such as speaking to international thought leaders from a variety of different disciplines, including human hearing, human-computer interaction, cooperative work, and management. This led to our focusing on 3 key areas of investigation: technology, management, and team behavior. And the quotes which you can see on the screen are some of the quotes that were voiced by the experts we interviewed. I mentioned earlier that we identified 15 factors of significance in conference meetings. They're shown on this slide. The blue areas relate to the technology aspects of conferencing, how reliable it is, how good the sound quality it is, and how easy it is to identify other speakers were some of the major factors. You can have the best management practices and the most excellent people, but if your technology is not up to scratch, then your meetings will always be mediocre at best. Conversely, even if you have good technology, but your management practices are not very good, you will still struggle to have effective conference calls. Doing some simple things, such as having a good chairperson, a tightly focused agenda, and keeping the meeting to time will help to improve meetings. And lastly, even if your technology and management practices are good, but your people are just not following good conferencing practices, you will still struggle to have good meetings. I'm sure we have all been in meetings where at least one of the participants is calling from a busy railway station and have forgotten to mute their microphone, so that we cannot hear the destination of the next train to leave. Likewise, I'm sure you have been in meetings where someone is clearly doing their email in the background and has forgotten that the constant tapping of their two-finger typing gives them annoying. So we have produced some recommendations that capture these three areas: technology, management, and team behavior. And here's just the gist of the most important aspects of that. With regards to technology, it's essential to provide good sound quality and connection. Management-wise, it's important to set clear objectives in the meeting plan. And with regards to team behavior, it's important that all participants concentrate on the meeting. So this is just a gist, as I said, but there are many more recommendations which you can find in our report. So I strongly recommend that you have a look at it. Thank you very much for your time. And now I have the pleasure of passing you over to Dr. Mike Collier, who's going to tell you about the science of conversations. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. And we've heard quite a lot about the vital nature of conferencing to the global industry. We've heard quite a lot about the limitations that we're very familiar with conventional conferencing solutions, and we've heard that the Dolby Voice solution is a game changer. So I wanted to spend the next few minutes talking to you about the science and psychology that sits behind the Dolby Voice technology and explain why it's such a game changer. So to kick that off, we have to cast our minds back to a regular face-to-face meeting with a group of colleagues. And what we obviously understand is that you have perfect fidelity. You have no doubt that you can hear who's speaking, you know who it is, and you have no doubt that you can be heard when you speak. And you kind of relax and you have a natural meeting. You can very readily identify individual talkers even when there's multiple things going on because of the cocktail party effect. You can zoom in on the person you're interested in and you can ignore noise or other sidebar conversations. You can pick up those little nuances of somebody agreeing or somebody disagreeing. You know where to direct your next question or remark because you've heard them agree or disagree. You can tell when the room's got the point and it's time to move on. So, why is it easy for us in a face-to-face meeting to perform all of these very complex auditory tasks of picking out all of these subtle sounds? Well, the reason it's easy is because you are employing an extremely sophisticated and highly evolved skill called binaural hearing. So, over millions of years, we have evolved intricate hearing physiology and an enormous processor. The human brain is the most complex object in the known universe by a country mile. And our ancient ancestors relied on this in their daily struggle for life. So knowing the nature of the sound and where it was coming from was vital, because it might be something you could catch and eat, or it might be something you wanted to catch and eat you. Pretty important distinction. So that's part of it. The other part of it is to do with how human intelligence is structured. So human beings are very intelligent. We usually have some nods at that point. But in fact, the big piece of our intelligence, the bit that's enabled us to change the face of our planet and go into space and all that sort of thing, that's an intelligence we can apply when we're able to formulate a problem. In the moment, our conscious in-the-moment intelligence is by comparison very small. So if your total intelligence was the size of a football field, your in-the-moment intelligence would by comparison be a grain of sand on that football field. And that's a neurology and physiology fact. So it really matters what you're spending that in-the-moment conscious intelligence on. So now I've set you up to really see straight away what's wrong with a conventional conference. So the fidelity of the sound has been crushed out. We're only hearing the loudest sound. So all of those subtle noises that we want, who's agreeing, who's disagreeing, have gone away. All of the spatial cues have gone away, so it's actually much harder to tell who's talking, or who's waiting to talk, or who's agreeing or disagreeing. And we crush all of that down into a mono signal and often play it into only one ear. So now that piece of conscious intelligence, which is so critical, is diverted onto just the most unnatural listening task you could ever wish to suffer from, really. And you're working really hard to decipher what's in that signal, who's talking, who's agreeing, who's not agreeing. It's actually very distressing from a psychology point of view not to know who's saying what. And because you've diverted the intelligence in the wrong way, it's extremely fatiguing. And so by the end of an hour's conference call, you're either exhausted because you have paid attention, or 10 minutes in you've decided it really is just too much like hard work, and you've done some email instead. And you shouldn't feel so guilty about that, actually, because it is a physiological consequence of what they're doing with conventional conferences. So the magic of the Dolby solution is to retain, preserve, if you will, and recreate the most critical natural audio cues that make face-to-face meetings relatively effortless. So we maintain fidelity, we keep the spatial audio cues, and we make sure that those critical soft signals also survive the system. From the earliest days of demonstrating this technology, we got a lot of feedback from even the people we were demonstrating to, saying, wow, that was amazing. After a few seconds I could relax into my meeting, and it felt more like a face-to-face conversation. It felt like we could get more done, which is great news. But at Dolby Labs, we thought it would be very interesting to try and measure the impact of this kind of communication solution on task efficiency. So we devised a set of tasks related to some standardization work, and we had teams perform those tasks, either face-to-face or using conferencing solutions. The teams would have been partly in the room with a conferencing device, partly remote users, soundproof booths, as it knows. So the baseline, the sort of dating for performance would be face-to-face, so that if they could perform a certain number of iterations of the tasks face-to-face, we rate that as 100%. We then had them perform the same tasks using a conventional audio conferencing solution, and it made their performance fall back to about 60% of what they could do face-to-face. We then let them perform the task using the Dolby Voice technology, and that brought them back up towards 80% of what they could achieve face-to-face. So this is a measurable improvement in task efficiency of about 25% for the spatial conferencing over the traditional conferencing. And it's really fascinating to speculate what that will map to in terms of real gains in organisational productivity, because you can measure the improvement that this tool brings you. So the corresponding longitudinal study against an organisation is really interesting to do. So we're there now, I think, yes. So we've now got this complete solution with desktop, mobile, and now in room, which means you can enjoy a much more natural, less fatiguing meeting wherever you are. And I think I'm being just a little playful if I say that compared to a traditional conference, BT MeetMe with Dolby Voice will make your organisations more intelligent. And now it gives me great pleasure to hand over to BT's David Stark. David.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I'm just conscious that I'm the last slot between you and the demonstrations, so I'm not going to take too much of your time. There are 4 areas that I'd like to go through briefly in this slot. First of all, cost transformation, how the Dolby service assists with that and enables that. To look at the different access methods that we've talked about already, but just to go through exciting integrations that we've done with Microsoft Link and Cisco WebEx. And then finally, just to give you and share with you some of the feedback we've had both from our existing users and the analysts alike. So if we go through cost transformation and how Dolby enables that, if you look at traditional audio conferencing, it's basically made up of two main costs. First being the cost of the call access into the conferencing service, and the other one being the cost of the conferencing bridge your call is hosted on, and services such as Zero are provided with that. And if you look at audio conferencing costs, they can be up to 2/3 of a large company's telephony costs. And for that reason, there's a lot of focus on how to reduce those, with many organizations putting the traffic or converting the traffic onto IP and putting the audio conferencing on net. Now clearly BT supports that, but for many customers, and even our most advanced customers, they're going to struggle to get more than 30 to 40% of their conferencing traffic on net, onto the data networks. But we actually think that we can do better than that. And if you look at the Dolby service and the clients that it provides, it enables you to access the service when you're mobile, when you're remote. So if you were working at home, on a customer's site, or in a hotel room, it enables you to take traffic off high-cost access circuits. And because it is supported over the public internet, there isn't the need to spend money upgrading your network infrastructure to support VoIP. You can still enjoy the benefits of taking traffic off PSTN. And in particular, if you look at global access, Dolby is in the sweet spot in this region. Globally, the three highest cost access countries are India, China, and Australia. So we think there's a great cost transformation opportunity for this service. Moving on to the methods of accessing the service. If you're at your desk, you can use the jointly developed BT Dolby desktop application, which allows you to see who's talking, allows you to do things like mute people, and it also allows you to share your application with your desktop with other users. If you're on the go, there is the mobile app, which comes with the same high quality audio experience and the world-class echo cancellation that Andrew referred to, that you can download onto your iOS or Android device. And then finally, when you're having those meetings where you've got a mixture of people in the room and remote participants, then the Dolby Conference Phone brings those same benefits to that meeting. And we're going to demo those three capabilities to you shortly. Now, whichever one you use, what you'll notice is they're simple and intuitive, which means that we're not requiring people to change their behavior to make use of it. And the second thing is, from an audio experience point of view, it's so good that it will allow much better voice over IP for many more users than a conventional IP telephony solution. So that's where the benefits around the cost transformation come in. Now, having said that, and these tools are really great, we also recognise that many of our customers are implementing unified communications, or UC, and will want the Dolby capability to work from their usage tool of choice. And therefore, we thought about that, and we're providing two UC options. So, first of all, if you're going down the road with Cisco and WebEx as your UC tool of choice, you can carry on using WebEx for collaboration. What we're doing is enabling, as well as linking WebEx to the telephony meeting service. You can also access Dolby via your PC or your tablet. And this means that you can run calls which have both telephony users and Dolby users, and enable the people participating to choose the most convenient and cost-effective method to join that call in real time. And if you're worrying about what the user interface would look like, and you're worrying about the integration is effectively a very simple and familiar interface, you needn't be. As you can see from the screenshot here, all we've done is added an extra option where you can click to call using the computer to bring up the Dolby voice service rather than via telephone. And then lot of customers are clearly going down the Microsoft Link path, and they're looking at using it for telephony and audio conferencing as well as IM presence. And for these customers, we see one of two ways that they're going about implementing it, either what we would term as big bang, so they may be taking 80% or more of their users in one go, and taking off MeetMe onto the service, or they're doing a more gradual approach where you take a small amount of users in the first place and run both link conferencing and MeetMe service in parallel and allow users to join on either from Link or MeetMe into the same call so that you can migrate your base at a pace that suits you. Now for some customers, if there's no barriers to change, no pre-existing conditions in the way, they'll go for the first. But what we're seeing is the majority are going for the second. And therefore, what we're providing is a solution that allows both Link users and MeetMe users to exist in the same call. And if you're the Link chair, it is just going to look like a native Link experience with the same controls available to you as any other. And then finally, kind of what are our customers saying about this? This service we've had available in Europe and US for 12-15 months now. And the point about these tools are, it's easy for us to stand up here and talk about whatever our experiences is, but unless people are using it in anger and getting real benefit from it, it doesn't really count for very much. And as you can see from these quotes, we are having the impact that we were looking for, which is really great. And actually, we've got one of our existing customers here today who's I'm going to introduce in a minute. They'll actually tell you about how they've been using the service and how they found the experience. And just before I do that, the final point I was going to make is the other sort of group of users that we demonstrated this to and shown the service to and allowed them to use it for the analysts. And again, you can see that very consistent, very positive message that they've given us. So we're very excited about the service. We're very proud of our partnership with Dolby. We really do think that we're going to demonstrate something to you today that is very, very different. Having said that, I'd like to invite Keith Graham up from WANDisco, who will just share with you their experience of using the service.
It was nice to see the quote there from our CEO. I'm sure most of you have never heard of WANDisco. I'm not going to ask for hands and embarrass anybody, including myself, in that. We're a global software company with dual headquarters in the UK and the US, satellite offices around the world. I'm sure that's very familiar to most of you. We provide a technology that works with Hadoop, so to enable scalability, reliability for Hadoop. Most people don't know about Hadoop. It's designed originally to go and work in one location, and that's how it's been designed. As you add new locations, new challenges, new complications around, and we fix that. We take it and we're able to make different locations work together, create a seamless, unified instance of Hadoop around the place, and allow everything to work together seamlessly. And that's what we're trying to do is across the different locations. That means we are all over the place. We have people in all sorts of different locations, and that is the challenge that we have. We looked at the idea of using the BT MeetMe with Dolby. We're using conference calls. We're sitting in. Our CEO is one of those luxurious ones with that in his office. The rest of us are running around doing that. So we run over 200 different calls already in the last 5 months through it. We're all very, very pleased. And it does give you the feeling that you are in the room. I know they're saying that that's how it is, but it does actually feel like that. That can be a good thing. It can also be not so good thing when you actually catch some of the other conversations that are going on around you. But really, it does give you the feeling that you're in the room. And what we've noticed from that, having customers or ourselves in different geos around the place, is you're actually paying more attention to what's being spoken about in there. You're not as disengaged as you think you're actually going to go and be. And it's led to productivity. The most important thing for us is the conference calls are shorter. I know that doesn't play well into Carlos's number of minutes here, but for those of us who are running a geographical region, I'm sure all of you are, who are getting up at silly o'clock to be on calls, the idea about actually being engaged, listening to people, and the interaction. You're not just on mute and then trying to jump in. Those have made a difference for us. But the biggest thing is the reduction in the amount of time we're spending on calls. So I look forward to the demos here, and if anyone wants to know what we're using, we'll find the next time.
Thanks very much, Keith. same. If you want to actually trial the service, we've got a number of devices available. You can talk to your BT sales team, but these are available to be trialed now. Don't just rely on the demos today or all the impressive words that we come out with this afternoon. Please sign up and try the service yourself. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Carlos.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Keith. Andrew, Anna in the UK, Mike and David, thanks for the great conversation that we had. I hope it was helpful and interesting. I'm not going to spend any more than 3 more minutes to basically register 2 additional messages. The first one, a gigantic thank you for joining us today. We know your time is valuable, and we really, really appreciate that you took the time to spend this afternoon with us. I hope this conversation was interesting. And the second message is, don't believe anything we told you just because we told it to you, okay? Now we have an opportunity to actually go out there and test what we've been discussing for the last 45 minutes to an hour. So before we disconnect with our remote site, thank you to our team and our guests in KL. We are now going to disconnect the remote sites and move into a more local agenda. I should say nothing personal. Okay, so very quickly, the logistics for the agenda.